Looking for a fun way to win up to 25 times your money this basketball season? Test your skills on Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projection for a wide variety of stats, and place your entry. It's as easy as that. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. Easy gameplay, quick withdrawals, and injury insurance on your picks are what make Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Ready to test your skills? Join the Prize Picks community of more than 7 million players who have already signed up. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit up to $100. Just visit prizepicks.com/get100 and use code GET100. That's code GET100 at prizepicks.com/get100 for a first deposit matchup to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy.
Welcome to the 7th episode of the Meet the Mancunian podcast. Meet the Mancunian podcast takes you on a weekly journey around the local community in Manchester. Season 2 has an interesting lineup of inspiring guests making a social or a community impact in the city. Presented by Deepa Thomas Sutcliffe, Newbie Mancunian. Tune in every Tuesday for your weekly dose of inspiration. Looking to find musical healing? We hear from Martyn Cawthorne, founder, Gong Spa. I'm delighted to introduce my guest, Martyn Cawthorne. Thank you, Martyn, for joining me today.
You're welcome.
Martyn, tell us about how you found your passion for sound healing, please.
Thank you, sweetheart. I'd love to. Well, I've been a musician for a long time, and I've been a meditator for a long time as well. I guess around 30 years for both of those. And then I happened to stumble across Colin and Olive, who were doing similar work at the Glastonbury Festival in the Healing Fields. And my partner was with me, and she said, "Hey, why don't we try that?" So we went in and tried it. In fact, she went first, and she came out saying, "I need you to do that for a living so that I can have my own gong slave."
Wow. I like that.
Yeah. And then I went in, and the only thought that crossed my mind the whole time, because it brought about such meditative stillness and such beauty, that who needs thoughts in those moments? But the one thought that did come was, you need to be doing this for your way of life. And I quit my job 3 months later, and I've just been gonging ever since.
That is amazing. And this is something unusual that you're going to help us experience a little bit later in the podcast as well. So there's a little taster of a gong bath for listeners coming up.
Lovely.
So could you tell listeners about the Gong Spa, which is your own venture?
Yeah, so Gong Spa is, I guess, the business name for what I do. And basically it involves me going to, most nights, going to play somewhere or other, maybe yoga rooms or church halls or places like that. And maybe somewhere between 20 and 40 people come, and they lay down in blankets and pillows, and we have a little chat just to settle them in, and then I play gongs for the best part of the hour, and it's very, very beautiful and very, very therapeutic as well. Excuse me. Yeah, so it's all that anybody has to do is just lay there and enjoy the sounds, and they're such amazing sounds that you can't help but enjoy them, and they speak so intimately with you. It's like much more direct than any spoken language, say. So as you listen, the place that they're talking to is the part of you which is so deep and silent and loving. It's your nature, and so as you listen, you find yourself naturally in that position of your own depth and your own silence and your own understanding, and your own stillness. And because of that, uh, and because of the vibrational element of the gongs, these vibrations are deep and rich and organic, and they're working through every cell in your body and your emotional body and your mind. And they're just massaging everything so that all the tensions are just loosened up, and everything that you've consciously or subconsciously been holding on to just is loosened, um, and you find yourself feeling completely free and completely relaxed. And then they go home and have the best night's sleep of their life, reportedly, and they feel really good for days to come afterwards. And
That
this
is
is,
amazing.
yeah, it is, yeah. I mean, it for me, it's something of just beauty, you know. When you're in the presence of something beautiful, it tends to go that way, you know. And like when I don't know if you ever go camping and you wake up in the night and everybody is asleep and the stars are out, and you such stillness descends in you in those moments, just in the presence of beauty, you know. And for me, gongs are so beautiful that's how I feel about them, you know. And I hope everybody does.
Sure, they do. And I guess this is a good time for us to take that introduction that we're going to introduce them to a very small taster of what a gong bath might look like. Martyn's kindly done that for us. So, Martyn,
Hi, I'm Martyn Cawthorne from Gong Spa. Just wanting to let you know a little about what a gong bath is. So, when you come to a gong bath, you lay down on a mat with blankets and pillows, and you get yourselves nice and comfortable. And then you just allow the gongs to do their work. They're really vibrational instruments, and they sound amazing. And as you lay there, the sounds and vibrations wash over you, and it's like they give it a little massage, working through all the cells in your body, undoing any tensions there. And they work through your emotional body, clearing any blockages. And they soften the mind and help to bring you into balance and perspective, here and now in this moment. As you enjoy the sounds, you find yourself very much at home in yourself. And before you know it, the hour has passed, and I'm saying a few words to bring you back around. And by that point, you tend to feel very relaxed. You get a good sleep that night, and you feel wonderful for a few days afterwards.
so tell us a little bit about who are these people who come to gong baths? Is there a particular profile, or does it completely vary?
Oh, it varies, definitely. You get anyone and everyone at the gong baths. Sometimes when we play at festivals, you'll have a funny situation where it's typically a woman that is coming and she's dragging her husband and says, "You've got to try this," and he's like, "Oh, I don't know about this," you know, and then he comes in and has his gong bath, and then afterwards he's in tears and he's giving me cuddles and he's saying thank you, and um, so, sometimes it's the case that some people are more open initially to the idea of having a gong bath than some other people. Um, but once they're in the room and having the gong bath, it works for everybody. There's no, you don't need to believe anything. You don't need to have a long beard or you know, it it's Um, it's completely universal. Everybody is affected by vibration, and everybody is affected by something beautiful. Um, yeah, yeah. I guess that a number of people come because they feel that they could do with some respite, because they feel that they have stress or tension, because they just want a good sleep. Um, but some other people come because they love the way it sounds, and that's just enough for them. You don't need to be having difficulties with your life to enjoy the gongs. But if you are having difficulties, then the gongs are very helpful.
What advice would you have for people looking to start something similar, maybe in another part of the world? We do have
Mm,
listeners from around 18 countries now, so hopefully somebody gets inspired.
yeah, okay. So, uh, if you love it, then do it. Whatever it is, whether it's sound healing or just the reason this has worked for me, as far as I can tell, has been that there's nothing I'd rather do than play gongs for people. You know, really, it's true. And the minute I'm with the gongs, my whole heart is completely given over to them, and um, and to be able to give that to people is very beautiful. And I think that would be the same for anything that you love. You know, I think when we do things that we don't love, um,
Feels more like
I
work,
don't know.
maybe.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know if that's the right answer to your question, actually. I guess if somebody wanted to play gongs, what I would recommend is that um, you start with probably a second-hand gong that you can. The reason I say that is so that you can try it before you buy it, because
Oh.
gongs are so different. You can't just grab any gong and assume that that's going to be something that's going to work well for you or for anybody who's listening to you. If I think if you want to give an experience that's beneficial to somebody, it has to be beneficial for you and enjoyable for you. So you need to find a gong that works for you. And they're handmade, they're unique. Just because you hear one that you like, if you then buy the same one, it's not really the same one. So um, because they're all unique. So you find the one that you love, and you start there, and you spend a long time playing it and getting familiar. They're like people in a way. They have personalities and secrets, and they have um, such sounds in them that you don't know how to coax them out at first. It takes a long time to get to know them and find their ways and just what to do to tease out certain things at a certain time, and when not to try and tease those things out. Um, it's a real relationship between you and the gong, um, and can't be rushed.
So I'm going to switch gears and just ask you my signature questions, which I ask all my guests. And my first one is, since this is Meet the Mancunian, what do you love the most about Manchester?
Oh, just being here. um, I love walking on the streets of Manchester. I love, yeah, we go for nighttime walks quite a lot. Um, I love the feeling of the change that's always happening. I don't always feel like I recognize where I am in Manchester. um, and I've lived here, I don't know, 30 odd years, and there's so many memories attached. And just walking the streets, I feel a real bond, and I feel like I belong, and I feel at home. I love the people, and I love bees. and all the music venues and bands. Seen so many good bands here. I remember when I first came to Manchester, just feeling that the place was completely electric, like alive and buzzing, and just anything could happen. And it's edgy, and it's really, its population is really mixed, and it's everyone and everything. I find it reminds me of places like Berlin and Chicago, and just like anything could happen. Yeah, it's really alive.
That. Where's your favorite place in Manchester?
Um, I love the Apollo. I don't know if that's what it's called anymore, but I always go into gigs there. Venues change their names. To me, it's the Apollo. um, I've seen so many good bands there. It's a brilliant venue. I love Home. The where they
Been
have
to
this.
home.
Yeah, they have the cinemas and there's always some really interesting films there, and great food, and lovely people there all the time. It's always really interesting. I love my hammock in my garden.
That sounds nice. Hopefully not in the cold weather, but in good weather.
I go in there whenever I can, take a duvet out. I love Whitworth Park, Alex Park. The gallery actually at Whitworth is great, and the food there is great. Um, yeah.
Great. What's the most important life lesson you've learned so far?
That my partner is always right.
She's standing there asking you to say that.
Yes.
Nice.
No, she's not. But I tell you what, though, there's something in it. Despite the comedic value, there's some truth in that fact. Wise one, and she. It's interesting, but she is completely different to me to the point that I don't understand her at all, and and because of that, it's like she represents everything that's outside of me, which means that everything that I could discover is right there. When if you're too dependent on someone who's just like you, then you never really grow. um, so I love that kind of challenge of the thing, whatever it is that I don't understand, and she's just the prime example of it. um,
So, I guess my last signature question for you is if someone wrote a book on your life, what would they title it?
this is such a good question, and we were talking about this earlier, and well, what we came up with in the end was, I hope you don't mind that I've been talking about this with my partner. Um, we thought of tender is the might, which
10 days that might.
tender
Okay.
tender is the might.
Oh,
So
okay.
there's a book by Fitzgerald called Tender is the Night,
Okay.
which is well, I don't want to go too deeply into it, but it's something of the difficulties for people to show their vulnerability and their loving nature, and so on. But we were thinking that tender is the might would reflect something of my life. In the first instance, that I've had the luxury of a life in which I've been able to show tenderness and love and work in a field where people are coming for tenderness and love. It's that kind of life. And tender is the might is kind of an expression of how actually the tenderness and love is the most powerful. The depths, and it's profound how far reaching tenderness and love can be. You know, just that stillness it just goes through everybody. And
Thank you so much, Martyn, for talking to me and my listeners.
Thank you, sweetheart. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you all for listening from so many countries around the globe. I'm so glad to know you're finding some inspiration from the amazing Mancunian guests who feature here. I hope you enjoy the 7th episode of the Meet the Mancunian podcast Season 2. Tune in every Tuesday for a new episode. Please do consider subscribing to the podcast and leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts. I would also be grateful if you could share this podcast with a friend or a family member. Thank you so much for your support.